I'm now joined by Amitabh Kant, India's G20 Sherpa, and somebody who's written exclusively on AI and the geopolitics of it. Thank you very much, Mr. Kant, for joining us here on ET Now. Now, of course, the Prime Minister made a pitch for inclusive, sustainable, and ethical AI. How is that pitch at France AI Summit different from models and policies that are currently existing in the world today?
So one of the key things Prime Minister spoke about was the need to create foundational models based on data sets from the global south, which is very important. And he gave the specific example of the left hand and the right hand, and said that if the data sets are all coming in from the western part of the world, they will be trained exactly on those data, and they will not be able to capture the strengths, the civilization, the heritage, the culture of India and of the global south countries. So it's very important that we are able to firstly use the data sets. That's important. Secondly, use AI for public good. That is for improving learning outcomes, health outcomes, nutrition, standards, etc. And thirdly, he said, whatever we do, we should do it in an inclusive manner, particularly for the global south. And these, to my mind, are very, very critical issues which the Prime Minister of India has raised at the AI summit.
Right, Mr. Kant, so you're essentially alluding to data sets that could be based on foundational models in the global south, and of course AI should be used for public good. That also echoed at the summit. But how is that pitch? I'm asking you again, how is that pitch different from what United States and China, for instance, are propagating?
There are two things. One is it's a completely closed model as far as the American model is concerned. It's not an open source model. And secondly, the challenge which is really going to come in for most of the global south is that the global south will be reduced to be a technological colony of the western part of the world, because the AI, the real brain of AI, is the GPU, and GPU is really powers computation, and that's at the heart of AI machine intelligence. Now, if the GPUs, by the AI diffusion rules which Biden administration framed just a couple of days before leaving, it says that advanced GPUs of A100s, H100s, and now the new Blackwell model will not be available to India at all. And therefore, it puts India to a great disadvantage, to my mind. It's open for United States and 18 allied countries, but not even for a Quad partner like India. And therefore, it has very adverse impact. And to my mind, computational power will be very critical in the days to come. Secondly, I think India will have to demonstrate that you do these things in a less energy-intensive manner. What the western part of the world has done is to use massive energy power. And the recent study by IEA says that AI and data centers will consume more energy than the country of Japan by 2026. And therefore, you need very nimble-footed, very energy efficient, very cost-effective solutions, which is what the Prime Minister was propagating there. And thirdly, to my mind, open source is the way forward, and open source will need, while open source is important, it will also need a very good convergence between software and hardware and very clever engineering. So the ability of India to do great frugal engineering is very important.
Right, so frugal engineering and making sure that AI is affordable and inclusive and available for all is, of course, India's big pitch. But sir, you mentioned and you brought up a very important point, which is essentially on the big conversation that's also happening on how the duopoly of AI has been established, and now that needs to be ended. You have US-based companies, like I was saying, on one side of the divide and China on the other. And of course, United States Vice President also said yesterday that US will drive this leadership in AI. So what role then can India play in not letting that duopoly perpetrate and perhaps becoming a formidable force in this space?
So the AI race has just begun. It's wide open in the days to come. And this would require us to support a lot of our startups. This would require us to do a lot of foundational models. This would require us to put a lot of computational power in the hands of our research institutions, our IITs and IIMs. And this would require us to do great software and hardware both. And that, to my mind, our ability to use less energy and create nimbleness in creating models is very important. Rarely has a technological race been won by the original leader. It is always won by those who follow subsequently and are able to do great amount of good, clever engineering in the days to come. This was the case with the search internet. This was the case with all technologies in the world. So the race has just begun, and those who succeed in the days to come, who bring in a sense of urgency, a sense of missionary approach, as well as a sense of their own data sets. And India has already demonstrated much of its ability in the digital public infrastructure space. And now, with vast amount of data sets available in India, which is multilingual and multimodal, which is very important because India has 22 dialects, which can be a huge advantage. And India has many regional dialects, 22 languages, all can be used, and this can actually fuel a whole wave of innovations in large language models and small language models in the days to come. So the foundational model is critical for India to create its own sovereign foundational AI.
Right, but sir, when you talk about the AI race, and realistically, if India is to lead that race, what kind of investments and funds are needed for the ecosystem to develop and thrive? We do know that the government of India is investing on AI. There is AI mission, and of course, there were budget-related announcements as well. But are those investments enough? I know that you've spoken about frugal innovation, but to set up the architecture, to set up the infrastructure, sufficient amount of investments are also needed. Do you think those are enough?
No, what DeepSeek has done is to, it had constraints on computational power. It used H800, so it claims. It has also done open source. It has used the Meta Llama models. And open source, it's demonstrated that open source is the way forward, not closed models, which OpenAI and Meta and many others are pursuing. I think, to my mind, what Indians should really do is, as they have done in the case of DPI, is to use the power of open source and open applications and leapfrog and pole vault in a very big way. The challenge is really about providing computational power, which is being provided through the AI mission. But India has about 420,000 technical engineers. India has over about close to 92% enterprise adoption rate, and India has, all these global capability centers which are using the power of AI from here. So India is not short of talent, India is not short of skills, India is not short of manpower, which the rest of the world is. The challenge will be, to my mind, just the computational power and our ability to support foundational layers. And the third will be to change the curriculum in most of our engineering institutions in the days to come of triple IITs, IITs, and all the private engineering institutions, and drive a lot of machine learning and AI so that we can produce the skilled manpower not merely for India, but for the rest of the world. The last point I want to make is that most of the AI across the world is being driven by Indians in different ways. And we need to be able to come out with a quick, fast scheme to attract many of this AI talent from across the world and put them, make them real champions of making India the leader in AI in the days to come.
Absolutely, and skilling will be key to sort of scale up this Make in India program. So you rightly mentioned that several people of Indian origin globally are developing these models, and of course it'll be interesting to see if an AI model on the lines of digital public infrastructure can be replicated and used widely as well. So when we speak about AI, we have to talk about regulations, Mr. Kant. So while each country is developing its own regulations, how should the global framework be set up? Because this is something, remember, that affects not just one country but the whole world.
So even the executive order that was drafted during Biden's term has been scrapped by President Trump. So to my mind, you can't have a scenario where there's no regulation in the United States and we do our regulations. Regulations can't be done by emerging markets like India. Regulation has to be brought in, by an international body, and there has to be consensus between all stakeholders and all countries together, because AI has the potential to unleash a lot of productivity, transform lives of citizens. It is also capable of triggering conflict among societies. But that can't be done by India alone. It will require a lot of political will, and whatever innovation there has, whatever regulation there has to be pro-innovation regulation in a manner so that we don't stifle innovation in any manner.
Absolutely, sir. That's a very important point, and this really sort of applies to any new technology that's developing. That regulations should be pro-innovation, and like you rightly said, most of the AI across the world will be driven by Indians in multiple ways. We'll have to see how India can capitalize on this opportunity that is being presented globally. On that note, thank you very much, sir, for joining us right here on ET Now. Appreciate you taking the time out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, time now for us to step into a quick break, but lots more coming up on the other side. You don't go anywhere.